So let's get right into it. We're going to tackle a question that, affects every single one of us. But honestly, very few people can actually answer it. Who really controls the money in your pocket and in your bank account? You see, if you think about it, money only has value because we all trust that it does. So the real question isn't just who prints the bills, it's who controls that trust. I mean, take a look at any note in your wallet. Its actual value has nothing to do with the paper it's printed on. It's all about our collective belief in it. Same thing for the numbers you see in your bank account. They're just digits on a screen, right? But they have meaning because we all agree they do. And yeah, every single time you tap your phone to pay for something, you're basically casting a vote. You're participating in this giant invisible system of trust. But here's the thing, this trust isn't some random accident. Oh no, it is actively managed, it's expanded, and it's influenced every single day. So who's pulling the strings? All right, to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to break down some of the big ideas, or maybe myths, that we all have about how money works. We all kind of grow up with this simple story, right? Governments control the money, banks just store it for us, and we go out and earn it. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. The reality is way more complex, and honestly, way more interesting. And this all comes down to the concept of fiat money. What does that mean? Well, unlike an old gold coin, the value isn't in the material itself. It's basically a promise. It's a promise that's only good because we all believe it'll be accepted tomorrow, just like it was today. So if trust is the bedrock of all of this, who are the guardians of that trust? Well, that leads us straight to this really powerful and, let's be honest, kind of mysterious institution at the very heart of the financial world, the central bank. Pretty much every major economy has one. You've heard of them, the Federal Reserve in the US, the European Central Bank, and their main job? It isn't just, handle the money, it's to manage and protect our trust in that money. That's the whole game. And they do this through three really critical functions. First, they control how much money is actually out there. Second, they decide the interest rates. And third, and this is the big one, they do all of this to protect our trust in the currency. Now, their job isn't to make everybody rich, and it's not to create some perfect economy. It's all about stability. It's a balancing act. See, if there's too much money floating around, you get inflation. Too little, you get a recession. So what they're really trying to sell us isn't money, it's stability. But wait a minute. Central banks aren't the only players here. Not even close. In fact, most of the money we use every single day, they don't create it. And what I'm about to tell you might totally change the way you look at your bank account. So, if the central banks are just managing the system, then where does most of our money, the actual numbers in our bank accounts, where does it all come from? And the answer is not a government printing press. It's actually created by commercial banks. Yeah, the banks you and I use every day. And they do it every single time they give out a loan. Think about it. When someone gets a loan for a house, the bank doesn't go into a vault and pull out cash. Nope, it just types a number into an account. New digital money, created out of thin air. This stuff, credit money, makes up almost all the money in the system. And it's all backed by one simple thing: the borrower's promise to pay it back. And look at that, we're right back to trust again. We trust that this digital money is real. We trust that the banks won't just fail. We trust we can get cash out when we want it. The entire system is just this incredibly delicate web built on belief. So what happens when that web breaks? Well, history has some pretty terrifying examples for us. Just look at what happened in Zimbabwe in the late 2000s. People completely lost trust in the government and the currency, and hyperinflation just exploded. We're talking prices doubling almost every single day. At one point, they were printing 100 times trillion-dollar bills that were worth less than a single US dollar. In the end, the money became so worthless, they just abandoned it. And that's the real lesson here, right? Money doesn't fail because the paper gets old or worn out. It fails because our belief in it just evaporates. Which, of course, brings us to today, and to a completely new kind of technology that's challenging this entire idea of human-managed trust. Yeah, I'm talking about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. They're offering a totally different deal. Instead of trusting people or big institutions, crypto asks you to trust code, to trust math. Traditional money is all about centralized control, guarded by authorities. Crypto is the opposite. It's decentralized, and the rules are enforced by a transparent network. It's a huge shift from trusting institutions to trusting algorithms. And that really gets to the core of the whole debate, doesn't it? What's better? Do we put our trust in people with all their mistakes, but also all their wisdom? Or do we trust automated systems, which are transparent, but also totally rigid? So let's circle all the way back to that first question. Who controls money? Well, the answer is nobody and everybody. It's not one person, not one government. It's a huge, complex system of trust guarded by central banks, amplified by commercial banks, and ultimately powered by the belief of billions of us. But that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. If banks are just creating money out of thin air every time they make a loan, well, where does something like inflation really come from? We're going to dig into that in our next explainer. See you then.